What's the difference between people that stay calm, cool, and collected during emergencies and those that just don't know what they do and they lose their mind? The answer is simple. It comes down to knowing what to do and how best to be prepared. Let's take a look at common home emergencies that might come up during your home ownership. My name is Finney, and my passion is helping you make sense of real estate. If you need help finding a top agent near you, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you're new here, please go and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. All right, my friend, let's take a closer look at common home emergencies and how to address them. I really hope that none of these ever happen to you, but at least after our conversation, you'll know what to do in case it happens. The first one is a grease fire. Grease fires are very, very common as we're frying French fries, we're frying chicken, we're frying whatever we want to fry. If we're not paying attention, we have a lot of family over and we're over here cooking, we turn around and we might have left that dish towel too close, or we might have got the grease too hot, and it just illuminates, it just catches on fire. We need to know what to do. The quickest thing that we could do is actually suffocate that fire. If you have a wok lid, or if you have the lid that actually goes to the skillet or the pot, wherever that grease fire just came from, go ahead and cover it. What it does is it suffocates the fire, because fire can't live without oxygen. If there's not a lid around, then the next thing that you can do is simply grab some baking soda and douse baking soda all over it. It'll kill the fire right away. The second thing to know about is what happens if your pipes burst in your home or if they break down. This happens a lot in the hard freeze areas of the United States. It could happen anywhere if it gets too cold. One thing that we want to do is keep in mind, where is our main water shutoff? It's generally in the street. You could run out there real quick and turn it off. And a lot of newer home construction built after the 2000s, they've started making water shutoff valves actually in the garage. By knowing where these water shutoff valves, that's step number one if you have a burst or broken pipe, to prevent any further damage happening to your home. If you have a basement, normally you'll find that the water shutoff is in the front side of the house. Please know where all your water shutoffs are, from your main water to any shutoff valves that you may have in your garage or in the front side of your house. Get familiar with that right now, so that if this happens to you, you can do that. After that water shutoff, contact the correct plumbing professional to come out and inspect and make any repairs that may be needed. The third thing is what happens if your furnace fails. Now, obviously, when it gets cold outside, we're going to want that furnace to work. If you have an electrical furnace, make sure that you have the unit turned off as you survey for any damaged wires or anything else that is out of place or broken in there. You may notice that some wires actually got fried, or it's time to replace the wires themselves. If you have a gas furnace, make sure that you have the gas shut off to it so you don't intoxicate yourself with that gas smell, okay? Let's make sure that we're smart here and that we stay safe by making sure that if you have an electrical furnace, you shut off the electric, and if you have a gas, you shut off the gas. The common culprit with a gas furnace is generally your pilot is out. What we want to do as homeowners, and best practice, is to have an HVAC contractor come out twice a year on a service agreement to inspect our furnace and make sure that it's ready to go for the winter before it actually arrives, and then come out and check our AC before the summer months. Contact an HVAC professional in your area, find the one that's right for you, and set up a service agreement with them to come out twice a year. Not only will that prevent this from ever happening, it's also really good home maintenance etiquette. The next thing that we want to look at is an overflowing toilet. What happens when the toilet is flooding? We have all had a friend, or we have all heard a story where this happened. Rule number one is to kill the source. Killing the source is right behind the toilet itself. If you go over to your toilet right now and you look right behind it, you're going to notice a little valve. It looks almost like a crescent piece, and what you would do is you'd actually turn off the flow of water to the toilet. Step number two is grabbing a mop or throwing down some towels real quick to dry up all that water so it doesn't cause any other damage to your house. And of course, the third step is trying to dislodge anything that may have become lodged in the toilet, and if that fails, then go ahead and call a plumber out to get it fixed right away. Now, let's say that your kids are outside playing and they toss a baseball or a football right through the window. Sometimes these things happen and we need to know what to do. If we have a broken window, step number one is to get yourself some heavy-duty gloves so you don't cut your hands in the process of removing the broken window. Step number two is to clean up that broken glass after dislodging and removing the broken window. And step number three that you'd want to take is to get some heavy-duty construction bags and tape up several layers around the window itself. Now, if you're going to try to DIY this yourself, it could take some time, so plan it out accordingly. Best practice here is to simply call the professional and get the window installer in there right away. In many cases across the United States, a window installer would be happy to come out right away, survey what kind of window that you have, and make that replacement right there on the spot. The next thing thing to know about is what happens when the power goes out. Now that could go to a brownout, it could go to a blackout. Quickest way to know whether you're having a brownout or a blackout is obviously with a brownout, it's just gonna roll in and then it's gonna come back on, right? It's gonna turn off and it's gonna come back on. So, but with a blackout, all your neighbors, your whole community could be completely wiped of all electrical connection and everybody's in the dark. What we wanna do here is to address the situation. Are we experiencing brownouts? Are we experiencing blackouts? Or is it just my home? If it's just my home, then the rule of thumb is to go check your electrical breaker panel and see if anything in there has tripped. Flip the switches, make sure that we get the power back on, and if that's the case, fantastic. If not, and we are experiencing a blackout, then that's why it's important to have an emergency aid kit ready to go, stocked with food and supplies and water, in addition to obviously having a flashlight and candles. We need to know what's going on. If you don't have an emergency kit right now, go ahead and start getting yours set up right now, along with the rules of your house to keep you and your family safe in the case of an emergency. The next thing that could happen is you could actually get rodents in your house. Rodents like to live not only in the walls, but also in your attic, and if you have a basement, they might decide to migrate down there too. One of the telltale signs of whether you have rodents, whether it be rats or mice, is simply to look for their droppings and look for any holes or in listening to the wall. If you have pets, and let's say that you have like a lab or something, they will probably bark at a wall. And if you go to that wall where they're hearing that sound that they're barking at, it's going to be a telltale sign. If you put your ear to the wall and listen, if you hear that little sound, that there's probably rodents in there. The best practice here, as opposed to trying to do this alone, is to most certainly contact a pest control specialist, because they can get rid of it and make sure that all the rodents are out of the house. The last thing that we want to do is have a rodent infestation in your house with their feces making you and your family sick. Let's get you taken care of the right way with pest control. The next one is very common in most of our households. At some time, we're gonna see those little ant infestations. You can have the carpenter ants or you can have the little sugar ants, right? And why do they come inside the house to begin with? It's important to note that if you establish a healthy daily cleanup ritual, you're going to alleviate this by a huge amount of probability that it won't be happening if you simply clean up behind yourself. You make sure there aren't crumbs, you make sure there isn't stuff left in the kitchen, and you carry out your trash every day on your way to work, right? If you do that, then you're going to be able to avoid this by and large. Now, what happens if you do have it? Sugar ants are a little bit easier to get rid of. You can actually get some taro ant bait and you put that out and it'll take care of them pretty quick. At the same time, if you have those black carpenter ants, those are the ones that can cause a lot of problems. So let's go back and revisit our conversation with our pest control friends and have them get rid of those pesky ants. Sometimes people really freak out whenever they see a smoky oven, but with a smoky oven, the most common culprit is if it's a brand new oven. And when you have a brand new oven, it's important to remember to actually look inside of there and make sure that those little plastic zip ties that are holding down the trays themselves are taken off, and to make sure there's no cardboard in there or any cellulose or anything else in the oven that shouldn't be there when you ignite it. So go ahead and take a look at that if you have a smoky oven as step one. Now, step two is, what if you've been living in your house for a while and it's still smoking? When was the last time you cleaned your oven? More than likely, the culprit is that you have some grease laying in there, you have some old food in there, there's something going on that's causing the oven as it heats up to smoke. So very easily here, turn off the oven depending on how smoky it is. Open up the windows to let all the smoke out and clear your house of the smoke. Then go back, let the oven cool down, get some Easy Off, spray it in there, let it sink in, and give your oven one heck of a good deep clean. The next thing to know about is your water heater. Now, in water heaters, it is so interesting in real estate practice. They are a common culprit in home inspection reports. As a homeowner, it's our responsibility to take good care of our water heater. We all love a hot shower or a hot bath, right? So let's make sure that we take care of it. But what happens if it starts to leak? It could be a sign that it's about to go out. It could be a sign that we need to just simply go investigate and see if there's any broken pipes or valves before it causes more damage. Now, if it is time to change out your hot water heater, be honest with yourself, and if you have a home warranty company, go ahead and give them a call and have them evaluate it and see if they'll replace it for the cost of the deductible. Now, we want to make sure that we're taking care of everything. So of course, if you have a leaking water heater and you can't find the source, what is rule number one? Very simply, shut off the water. As a pro tip here, make sure that when you're setting your temperature on your water heater that you limit it to 120 degrees Fahrenheit on the high end. Anything hotter than that's actually going to be a waste of your energy and cause higher utility bills than are necessary. At the same time, it's important to remember if you start going over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, you're now risking getting scalded by the hot water that can come down. Now, as an adult, it may just scald you a little bit, give you a little bit of a burn and let you know, hey, that is a bit too hot. But what happens if you have little ones? It can actually give them second-degree burns. Let's protect them by knowing that just keep it at 120 degrees as a rule of thumb. And the last thing that we're all going to experience at some time as we live in our homes for a long period of time is a ceiling leak. With a ceiling leak, the culprit could be so many different sources. So step one that we want to do with a ceiling leak is to obviously put down some plastic bags, some pots or something to catch the water. Number two is to track down the source. Is it a broken pipe that might be in the attic running water across the house? If so, we know that we need to go shut off that water. Or is it possible that the underlayment to your roof itself is deteriorated and needs to be replaced? It's been raining outside and it's penetrating the plyboard into your roof, into your attic, and now has gotten so bad it's starting to become noticeable on the inside of the home as it drips. Cut this off at the pass. It costs a lot less money to maintain a home correctly than it does to fix major issues when they arise. As a final thought here, as you're having any professional handyman or professional contractors to your house to perform work on your property during the time that you own it, please save all of those receipts. Add it to your homeowner journal so that if and when you decide to sell your home, you'll have everything available as you're going through your seller's real property disclosure and you say, I had this leak, I had this problem, I had that problem. Then you'll have the receipts on hand to also provide to your listing agent that can disclose it appropriately to the buyer's agent and the buyer so they know that all of these issues were remediated correctly by the appropriate professional that was necessary at the time during your home ownership. Okay, so now let's take a look at the average cost to maintain a home and how long things will last in your home on average. Looking forward to our next conversation. We'll see you in a few.